Welcome back, everybody, to the Voices for Blogging podcast, where we have faces for radios and voices for blogging. As always, in Los Angeles, California, there's Royce Hamano, and here in Honolulu, Hawaii, it's Steve Lee. You can find us on the Podbean app, Apple Podcasts, and we just found out we got approved for the Samsung podcast, Royce.
Oh, we did. So
And
I didn't tell you what I did.
iHeartRadio and Spotify, kind of big time.
Did we really get approved for that? I haven't actually checked.
Yeah, so I just
replied.
I just got an email that said that, So I don't know, I was pretty excited about that. I guess the last part of the intro, guys, is, check us out on our Instagram page at Voices for Blogging. Drop us a DM, maybe tell us kind of something you're interested in, or just yell at us, whatever, it's fine.
Just slide into our DMs.
Yeah, just slide it all in. It's wide open, which is...
Please only PG-13 pics, if anything.
Yeah, no weird pics of body parts, please. So we got a lot to talk about, Royce. I mean, a lot's gone on. I mean, and just in case anyone thinks that we're of the ilk that is not talking about crypto more often during this crypto winter, just because they're like licking wounds or upset about it. Nah, we just don't have time.
I'm not talking.
Yeah, I'm just too busy.
I'm actually gonna fly on an airplane and hide out in like Dubai or something.
But a lot's gone on, Royce, since that last episode we had a pretty impassioned conversation with Ken. Yeah, about inflation and rate hikes and those kind of things. In some ways, it's kind of good that we haven't recorded in the last couple of days. I mean, last couple of months, or has it been 6 to 8 weeks since we recorded?
It's probably been about 8 weeks, and
right.
I don't know if that's good, but it's
well, it's good because we said some things on the show, and we kind of laid out kind of what we thought things would play out so far and how things are. It's fascinating. I mean, today the date is August 3rd, just in case it takes us a few days to edit, so you have an idea, a point of reference of anything we're talking about. And we're going to really try to make sure we don't just talk about financial and economy stuff and put some people to sleep. But it is a big talking point right now. There are a lot of things going on that affect everyone's everyday life. This isn't just for people invested in the stock market or what have you.
Yeah.
You wanna kick us off, Royce? Just kind of give us some thoughts off the top of your head.
Man, so let me just give a rundown of what I've been doing in the last couple months. So, back in June, we had a ton of crypto conferences. There was Consensus in New York, which is basically like the largest crypto conference in the space. And then a couple weeks later, there was NFT NYC, which was one of the bigger NFT conferences. And my takeaway from a lot of those things is that even though we're in the throes of crypto winter, there's still a lot of energy and still a lot of people building. There's a lot of platforms that are being built now to launch NFTs. So I think that there's going to be a proliferation of that in the coming months and years. It's just these tools that are making it easy for anyone without any coding experience or anything like that to launch their NFT projects. And I think that's kind of neat. But outside of that, man, I mean, crypto changes so quickly. There's so many things that are happening every day. Just in the last couple of days, or really in the last day or two, there's been a huge draining of Solana wallets.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the latest, biggest thing that's been happening. And they're still doing the analysis on, what happened. Right now, the theory is that there was an application that I think some of the people gave access to their Phantom and other Ethereum wallets to. I forget the name of it now, but basically it looked like it was logging their seed phrase in on one of their servers in plain text. So it was passing it over the network and logging it in plain text. And that might be how, some of these people's funds are getting taken. But, we'll see. But it definitely does give, between that and since we talked, there was that huge meltdown in crypto where, one, Tesla sold a bunch of their Bitcoin. So much for the hodling that. But what happened was that during that time, the market took a big drop as well. And 3AC, which was one of the leading funds, I guess, not really a fund, but investors in the space, that people really looked up to and had a lot of credibility. Because of the drawdowns and, how they were managing their funds, they went insolvent. and their insolvency had a bunch of contagion with other crypto projects like Celsius, Voyager, and a bunch of others. And I know people that had money on Voyager that now they can't get their assets out. And it's the same thing with Celsius. And that those kinds of things, it's awful for everyone that's involved that can't get their funds out. But two, it's just a really big black eye for the space, like, and whenever you're managing funds, user funds especially, there's a high sense of responsibility that you have to have when you're doing that. And unfortunately, there was a lot of leverage involved and people got wiped out. Some companies got wiped out, and now it's leading to a lot of problems with individuals and stuff. I mean, I was reading an article yesterday about how people were pleading to the judge in the case, right? Because now they're in bankruptcy proceedings, pleading with the judge to make sure that the users get their funds, before like some of these other guys get paid out, because those are the guys, those are the people that are really going to get screwed by this, are really going to get hurt by it. Yeah, just a lot's been happening.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to translate to some of the listeners that may not have an understanding of some of the things, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Royce, but on the Solana drain of those wallets, it sounds like it's a problem with the wallet system, not a problem with Solana. Is kind of what I've been hearing and seeing that people are talking about. It's not the protocol of Solana that's the problem. It's
No, it's not the
it's
protocol.
the way that things were encrypted with passwords or usernames or whatever, what have you. There was a little glitch in that system where they got exposed and someone took advantage of that. It's what it sounds like. And then that other thing you were talking about, with Celsius and all these other, it is with all these other platforms, it is a real big, it's a huge black eye, because it's like, what happens in bankruptcy proceedings, it's like certain people get made whole and certain people get screwed. And
Yeah.
it really seems like the everyday participant there, the guys that were trying to get into crypto and learning about it, they might get screwed.
No, for sure. I mean, I think for context, let's look at I think it was 2013 bankruptcy of Mt. Gox. So users of Mt. Gox back in those days, they still have not been paid out yet their assets.
Yeah.
So it's still in legal proceedings.
Yeah.
But I guess if there's a positive side to it, which, if there is one, I mean, the assets that were in there have gone up in value quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Kind of locked you off from selling in a panic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the crypto space is really complicated right now because there's a lot of emotion around it right now. With a lot of people, I hear people talking about it. Guys that were not really for it, you'll hear them pouncing right now and talking about how bad of an idea it is, and it's really not worth anything. You have what happened in Tesla, where they unloaded their Bitcoin, so much for holding it, forever, and those kind of things, and try to ride it up. And then yesterday we talked about what happened in MicroStrategies, which is one of the biggest holders as a publicly traded stock, a company that they hold a huge wallet of Bitcoin, and their CEO stepped down mostly because of criticism of his investment in Bitcoin and how much it's gone down. But it's amazing because at the same time, you don't hear reports that they sold off of them. They took losses. They harvested losses, though, which actually is a net positive, because they harvested losses but didn't give up the holding. So it's kind of one of those things where they're going to get a free tax write-off essentially on their earnings for other operations in the business. Now it really comes down to whether or not he's going to be right. He's still in the company. The CEO is now executive chair, and his main job is going to be to just look over his Bitcoin holdings, and the reins of the CEO are going to take over the rest of the operations of the business. So in some ways, it's really fascinating, because if you just read the headlines, it sounds like it's just all imploded and it's really bad. The stock's up huge today, a lot on also some short covering also, I would imagine, and the stock market's just up. And I think it's a good segue to talk about crypto and stocks. It really, as much as they don't want to make like they're related, correlated at all, the run up in stocks in this last month is very much in lockstep with the run up in crypto. I really, it's really hard to argue against that. I mean, it just is. It's like
it is
running up at the same time, and it seems like we're in a risk on a very I believe a very short risk on environment. And what that means is people are willing to speculate in the stock market again right now. And whenever people are willing to speculate in the stock market, it things like crypto have a chance to run up too because speculation's high, and it's a speculative asset. There's no doubt about that. It's just not it's not in a well established asset yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if you listened to the last FOMC meeting and the last talk that Powell gave, but it was really interesting because, although they were basically kind of giving the same message that they had in previous couple meetings, the tone this time was definitely a little less hawkish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think everybody picked up on that, obviously, and stocks went up, during the time that he was talking, the market went up, crypto went up. It was just really interesting. But I do hope, I do think, and I hope that, we've kind of hit peak inflation, because $7 gas is a little nuts.
Well, I mean, look, we talked about it, and this is what I brought up why I brought up the last episode that we talked, right? We talked about these things, and we were just kind of projecting 3 months out just to see how things would play out. And it's one of those things where if you look at all the core commodities, whether it's oil, whether it's wheat, whether it's cocoa, whether it's wood lumber, gasoline. I mean, today, the RBOB gasoline, which is the predicted price of gas at New York Harbor, right now it's about I want to say the last time I looked, it was at $2.90. So the relief is coming. And it really does seem like if you look at a lot of the commodities, the one commodity that hasn't rolled over is rice. But when you look at all these other commodities, they've completely rolled over. Lumber is $500, whereas at its peak it was near $1,500. So there are reasons to believe potentially that whatever recession we may have or are in, whatever, everyone just wants to argue and throw it all out, it might be pretty tame. But one of the challenges I see and are hearing about is wage inflation, is the cost of labor. And if the cost of labor goes up, everything has to go up with it. And this might be a head fake on the downside for some of these commodities because of that. But we'll see. We'll see if it all plays out. It all depends on kind of how unemployment goes. There's layoffs and what have you and those kind of things. But I think I remember when talking back at the last episode, I was saying that come September, we might hear a little change in tone in what the Fed is doing. They're not going to stop raising rates, but I would think they have an opportunity maybe to at least pause the rates and just let's see how it plays out, because all this data we're getting right now is all lagging data too. People are spending money like crazy this summer. There's no doubt. So, all those numbers are going to be high, but at the same time, we have that with commodities coming down. We've been watching the commodities come down pretty sharply in the last really 3 to 4 weeks. So that's going to work through the system and things will change. And, numbers might change. So should we continue just blindly raise rates and at some point in time put too much pressure on the private sector? And that has a bad effect at the same time. You look back at 2007, that's what happened in the housing crisis. They didn't have to keep raising rates like that, which basically collapsed a lot of the financial instruments because people just at some point couldn't afford what was happening in the change in their interest rates.
Yeah. What's interesting is that I went down to the bank today and I was talking to somebody over there. So the application for a line of credit right now, the process is taking 10 to 14 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it is because they're so backed up in the number of applications that they have to process that it's just taking that long. And I thought that was really interesting that, at this point in time, there's a ton of people trying to, open up lines of credit. Yet, the Fed's been saying that, households are flush with cash. So...
Well, and
super interesting.
There's also the thing about perspective, and we talked about this last episode again. The perspective of rising interest rates. When you look at mortgage rates, and you look at maybe promos that might happen with HELOCs or whatever, what have you, whatever kind of line of credit everyone's trying to open up. I mean, historically, we're still at a really good point here. I mean, I remember when interest rates were at about 5%, and people were like cheering. You're like, 5%, so cheap. You guys should buy your house. That was the narrative, and that was like 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of these things where it's important to kind of get this, to take this perspective in. I mean, I see the 30-year loan. I saw a 30-year loan here in Hawaii being sold for 4.875%. That's not terrible.
No, I think the mortgage rates, at least that I heard up here, it was like five something. I
Right.
think.
That's not. That's
Um,
that's not
which is
ocean.
I think that's the same interest rate I got on my first mortgage.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
might have been like 5.75 actually.
Correct. Correct.
I don't know. It's so long ago I don't remember.
And then, granted, yes, every housing market is different. We talk about that. We talk about how Hawaii housing market is different. It really is. It's own. It's really its own market in so many ways. But I'm curious to see that and I said I watch it very closely here because I'm in it. Um, and houses don't stay on market. Like, houses
Yeah,
here are still flying off, and they're flying off at high prices.
interesting. I mean, I guess Hawaii is a place that's always going to be in demand. But yeah, hey, what's your definition of recession?
Well, that's the thing, right? What does it come down to? Like, because it feels like that's a moving target when you hear people talk about that, right?
I mean, so I guess the rule of thumb that everyone is kind of knows of is the whole two-quarter GDP. Yeah, down.
Didn't we already have
The,
that?
huh?
Didn't that
Yeah, we already had that. We
never
already had that.
happen?
That's why there was that whole uproar about like the White House is trying to change the definition of a recession. But I guess their response to that is correct too as well, where it's like the recession is defined by what was that agency that does that? I forget now, but basically they're the ones that define it, and usually it's only defining a recession is usually something that they do looking backwards.
Yep.
Like they don't tell you like when you're in it,
Nope.
like immediately.
Right.
So I think both sides are right, but it's become kind of a contentious thing.
Well, it's
But
election year, right? So there's all the BS that comes with all that kind of stuff, and
yeah,
everyone's going
but I can tell you
that's
this.
everything.
I can tell you this though. I bet the normal everyday person can feel it.
Absolutely. Well, I think they felt it, and the question's going to be now when they're backwards looking come mid next year. What the last two quarters look like versus what these quarter we're in, and the next quarter is going to look like. It'll be one of these things where they'll tell us, oh yeah, I guess we were in it, and this and that, right?
Done.
Whole hung, and
Yeah,
then we're done, and we're out of it, right? I mean, so I do very informal channel checking, right? And I talk to some people in the travel industry and asking, especially, and they're in charge of like business travel, and they track business travel a lot. And I was just asking to see if if the bookings are down for the rest of this year, and it's not.
no,
And this
definitely.
person said that it's actually still going up, and they're paying for premium packages. They're paying for a lot, and some of these things are incentive trips, and some of these are conventions. So it's a mix. So when
Yeah,
I hear that, and I see oil prices coming down, and I see airfares coming down pretty dramatically. I mean, airfares right now are down dramatically for the last quarter of this year. When you look ahead, you're gonna come back to Hawaii again, dude. Like, the airfares that throwing out there to come back here is really low on Hawaiian right now. So
oh, is it? I might have. Maybe I will look then.
it's kind of one of these things where what they're doing is interesting. They're doing these really short travel periods on these promos. Like, they're saying, hey, there's a promotion, but travel is only from, like, I think this last one that came out yesterday was December 1st to December 12th or 14th. So they want to,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
not
but they
good.
want to fill their
Oh,
planes. But when I look at travel, like, I'm looking at traveling to New York in November, round trip from here, coach, $600.
why would you want to go to New York in November, dude? It's gonna be freezing.
Football games. It's a football trip. So
You're gonna see the G-men.
no, it's a football trip that pre-pandemic. I take my father-in-law and kind of accompany him to go see his friends, see his coaching friends, and so we'll go watch. We'll go watch the games at the military academies. We'll go down to watch Navy play Notre Dame, and then we'll catch a game at West Point after that game. So New York is the jumping point, since we can fly there directly from here. So it's kind of one of these things, It's just like you look at how the whole landscape of things, it seems like activity, fiscal activity, and just economic activity is really good still.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it definitely does. Like the last couple times I've been in Vegas, there's been a number of people that were there for conferences
Right.
and conventions,
Right.
and I mean, the big ones I think may have either left or maybe they'll start up this year. But
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely been a lot of people that have been flying into Vegas, and in fact, the last month, Vegas had the highest number of travelers fly into McCarran or Harry
Yep.
Reid Airport
Yep.
ever.
Yeah. So MGM Resorts just reported earnings this morning. So, and we forgot to mention this, Royce, and I would like to interject this part, and I can't believe we didn't talk about this. But you guys are now listening to the most pumped up version of our podcast because an hour before we started recording right now, Royce and I both worked out. So it's kind of crazy. It's never happened before.
Yes.
I'm not sitting on my stool right now that I usually sit on to record because I'm afraid my abs are gonna cramp and I'm gonna fall off my chair.
Yeah.
So like, it's one of these. So I'm watching this. I'm watching as so that's sidebar. So coming back to what we're talking about, while I'm working out, I'm watching MGM Resorts announce their earnings, and they were talking about how flight capacity into McCarran is 80% of what 2019 was, which is the highest since. And
Yeah.
then they're also talking about their gaming revenue being just off the charts. And occupancy is high, and they see no signs that it's slowing down. So it's kind of fascinating, and they're seeing growth in conventions for the last quarter of this year and the quarter they're in. So it's kind of one of these things where you look at it and you say, okay, so I'm in the mindset where I'm like, the stock market has run up a lot in certain areas, and I might, on one hand, want to buy a stock like SDS, which is a way to short the market in a short term, because the market's, in my opinion, is going to pull back at some point in time. Don't know when, but it will rally at the end of the year because it's an election year. Yeah. But I'm looking at some hospitality stocks that have been left behind on this rally. I'm looking at Marriott. I'm looking at these kind of companies where I'm like, you know what? If people are going to keep traveling, especially the business travelers going to travel, then I'm going to want I'm going to want to be in Marriott because I'm going to be on a part of that. Look, I'm a Bonvoy member, and it's really easy through that app to get rewards and to travel and book at really good rates. It's super convenient. Yeah. So if someone small time like me can see that, a corporation, especially who doesn't always look at the price of things, they just book, which is amazing, especially the bigger ones. I can't see how they won't be a winner in all this if this activity continues. Because the commodity stuff, we talked about it, like gas, I paid $4.75 a gallon for premium yesterday here. And 2 weeks ago in Washington at Costco, $4.75 for premium also. Not to say that,
that's Costco though, man. That's Costco. You gotta go to a regular gas station, man. You're getting a couple cents off.
Why do I have to go to a regular gas station when at Costco you're gonna save $20 a fill up? Which if you do that 6 times, that pays for your membership.
Yeah, but not everyone's gonna do that though.
Well, that's there, but
except maybe in Hawaii.
Yeah, look, if you want to pay $6 versus $4.75, that's a choice. That's a choice. That's not.
It is a choice.
That's just a choice.
Yeah, it's actually. I think it's a little easier in Hawaii too because there's a cost. Like the cost, like you can drive to Costco because everywhere in Hawaii is not very far.
Except
if your Costco is like,
except for time wise.
Time.
I mean, if you don't buy, if you go and buy the one, if you go to Iwalei, which is down in the kind of more industrial pier areas in Honolulu, you might be able to get there in 15 minutes. The line is so long, you might not get through until it's like 45 minutes by the time you get through. And if you're at, Waipio, which is in the central part of the island here, if you're in town, there's only a small window of time during the day you can go there. Because otherwise it'll take you an hour to get there. So, on your point of like, it's far away, it's like, you figure it out. There's ways to figure it out.
Yeah.
But again, it's a choice. It's a choice. You don't, right down the street, the premium is $6.11. These small gas stations are in trouble. Like, how are they going to offload this gasoline when everyone's buying it cheaper somewhere else on the same island?
You gotta support the mom and pop gas stations, man.
Yeah, I'll buy a bottle of water from them instead. But you look, they're there for the quick fill. They're there for the 5 gallon fill, so you can get to a Costco. You
Yeah,
know, yeah,
they're there for the tourists, I guess.
yeah. But but again, everything takes time to work through the system. They have expensive supply, and then they'll burn through that, and then we'll be in a better place. It's not that, I mean, 475 is not like it's cheap, but in retrospect,
I mean, honestly, when you told me 475, I was like, damn, that's cheap.
right. But at the same time, like gasoline might be artificially low in price anyway. Over all the years. So it is what it is.
Yeah. I remember when it used to cost me $30 to fill my 15-gallon tank.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore.
Yeah, but if cost of things are going up, it would make sense that should be one of the things that go up too. And we probably
I didn't even think about it. So like, I drove to Vegas 2 weeks ago, just on a whim. Like one of my friends wanted to go, so we drove and went. And I was basically saying, like, he was saying that, yeah, buying a ticket is like $200-$300. Like if he drives, it's $200-$300 just with the gas.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, you're absolutely right. Because the last couple of times I've been driving my electric car.
Right.
And it just to charge that, it's like $30-$40
each way.
It's huge difference each way. Yeah.
Yeah. So $80 in time, right? Because if you fly, it's about the same amount of time between the time you have to go to the airport, get out the airport, and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's pretty close. Anyways, maybe an hour or two different, depending on how well the airports are working.
But then also, when you get there, you have a car too if you need it. So
right.
Now, just don't go over the speed limit.
Don't blow doors off, man.
Didn't we? I think we learned that lesson, right?
Do not blow doors off.
Or at least I did. I know I learned my lesson, especially because I had to go to court.
There might have been a time, for those of you listening, wondering what we're talking about, where Royce and I and another friend may have been driving fast and maybe going a little allegedly just having maybe too much fun. We're saying it for the benefit of other people. Don't do what we did.
Anyway, dude, I still have not seen Top Gun yet.
What's wrong with you, man?
I don't know, dude. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time, the first one.
I'm gonna tell you this, man. Like, I liked it. It was good. Like, it was entertaining, all that. Jennifer Connelly, though, dude.
But
she looked good. That's all I'll say. She looked good.
How old is she now? She's got to be in her late 40s, early 50s, maybe.
Doesn't matter. She looked good.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I mean, aged well. I mean, we're getting old too, so
I mean, Tom Cruise is aged well. Like, isn't he like in his 60s? It's gotta be, right?
I don't know. I try not to track too much of that stuff. Yeah. I barely remember my own age half the time, so I don't know.
Yeah, he's 60, so he just turned 60.
Yeah. They did a good job stoking the nostalgia, no doubt. Obviously, the story is very predictable, but it's it's the experience of watching in the theater, and those kind of things, and that part was cool. I might go watch it before it leaves theaters one more time.
I gotta watch it for the first time.
Yeah. So,
but whenever that happens, I'll be excited to watch it.
Yeah, you're too drunk to understand my invite that night when we watched it here.
I
remember when you came to my house.
I did understand it, but I just forgot about it.
10:30 at night with a decibel level like through the roof. That was the best part. You had no idea you're speaking this loud while my wife and child were sleeping. But it's okay. Have a glass of whiskey, Royce. Let's just turn it up some more.
Oh man, that's getting cut too.
No way. Come on.
That's getting cut.
No way.
The power of being the editor. I'm gonna scrub.
You were.
I'm gonna retroactively go back and scrub all the bad parts. They're actually doing that with movies now. So there was an article the other day, kind of talking about how there was a scene in what show was that? Was it Lord of the Rings or Stranger Things? It was Stranger Things. Where basically they were saying that they went back and they silently edited a part for like continuity and stuff. And to be honest with you, I'm actually surprised that they don't do this more. But the kind of the commentary was that like, hey, in the future, it could be scary because people could go back and edit these shows, and just like when you watch a show like in the future, you watching the edited version, the context is a little bit different as opposed to people had commented on and watched before. So like you could go back. I heard a little bit about this Top Gun movie, but you could go back and make this Top Gun movie, and you could turn it into a movie about where the bad guy is. Instead of just being this ambiguous bad guy, it becomes like China or Russia or something, or like Europe or whatever, right?
So are they doing
And
it for reasons where they found things to be like insensitive, so they're going back and scrubbing stuff so people can't see how
I
culturally
can't remember.
insensitive things are? Is
Yeah,
that why
I
they're
don't
doing
remember
it?
exactly if it was a part like that or whether it was just a continuity thing. But they were going to go back and do it, and they might have already done it already. But that was kind of interesting because like you get, if you look at everything today, like you look at software, you look at audiobooks, you look at Kindle books, they go back and edit that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
And
books edit, right? I mean, books have multiple editions, like textbooks.
yeah,
Textbooks go through about 6 editions usually, or set before it's about time for a new textbook. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
The difference is that they tell you though, right? Like, I mean, maybe that's the distinction is that they have to have some kind of like versioning on these movies or something, or
I would think so. Yeah, you think that'd be a thing, but you're talking then about something that's considered art versus like a textbook, which is supposedly fact, supposedly,
yeah, right,
right?
yeah,
Especially with history books, right? Supposedly fact.
yeah. Well, I mean, history is written by the victors, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You don't get the
No, you don't get the
you
whole
don't get the
story.
view of the
You don't get the whole
the people that
story.
didn't get to write the textbooks.
Nope, nope. You don't get the whole story. It just is what it is.
It is what it is. What it is. Yeah.
Yep, it is what it is. On happier things, Royce. I mean, football season's coming, man. You get excited about that?
I am. And so like, there's been a lot of people talking about this whole Deshaun Watson thing.
Yeah, so much
Isn't it?
for the happier part of the thing. You won't bring that. Okay,
Oh yeah. I mean,
let's
like this. Yeah. I mean,
bring it
it's
up.
just
Little background, just in case people are listening don't watch sports. So there's a quarterback in the NFL who just got a fully guaranteed contract from another team from where he was before. He didn't play last year because, well, he had some
he was busy.
alleged
Alleged. Yes, it's alleged.
improprieties with about 25 massage therapists
No, it
in
was like 60.
in 1 year span.
20 actually
25 complaints.
20 joined the suit,
Correct.
but there were like 60.
Right,
So
I think it's about 25 or 26 that actually joined the suit total.
yeah.
Because and I love it because this is classic media, right? They said dozens, it's barely over 24. Okay, it's a lot. I'm not saying that's not a lot, but I'm just saying dozens. Yeah. They try to make it sound like 60, 72, 84, yeah. Right? I mean,
24,
yeah,
24 is a lot, though.
right? Okay, so it qualified for the S. You're correct, but it did barely qualify for the S. But
so this is the thing about the NFL, right? Like, and people were talking about this yesterday, and I was actually having a conversation with my friends this morning about this. So the Miami Dolphins owner got suspended for a year for talking to players and coaches, doing the tampering thing. Deshaun Watson got 6 games for, again, allegedly assaulting 60 women. Like that seems about right.
So what's interesting about that, though, is remember the NFL didn't come up with the 6-game thing. The NFL it went to a ruling body, which is led by a woman, by the way, and her recommendation and her thing based on and this is where the NFL screwed up because based on the NFL's past with how they punish people for things they shouldn't have done, saying things nicely. 6 games was consistent with how the NFL had ruled before. So now it's funny, right?
But the thing is, the NFL has been so inconsistent.
Correct. So therefore, it leads to a result like this because they're so inconsistent. It leads to a result like this where you're like 6 games, really? But then you saw today's headline: the NFL is appealing that ruling. The NFL is appealing that ruling.
They're trying to make it longer, I guess.
Because bad pub. It's bad PR, man.
It's whatever. I mean, the NFL is like at this point, their whole policy of enforcement of penalties and the player conduct and everything is just it's just laughable, right? I mean,
It is. But here's the thing. It hasn't hurt them one bit. It hasn't hurt them one bit. You know, the Dallas Cowboys just got declared the most valuable sports franchise in the world at $7+ billion of worth. I think it's like $7.64 billion that they were worth. Insane.
that's crazy. I'm sure Jerry Jones is happy about that.
Oh, Jerry Jones made a good bet. He made a good bet back in the day
He made a good bet, yeah.
buying this franchise
He
from
did.
Tex Stram. I think this was like 1988. He bought it. You
Because
know,
they weren't very good back then.
they were on the downfall. He got rid of Tom Landry, a
Yeah.
legend in the game, and brought in Jimmy Johnson, his college quote unquote buddy. Then come to find out, maybe they weren't that good of buddies, but brought him in and started history, right? I mean, and one of the greatest runs to start after starting out slow. The NFL, it's amazing that regardless of how many times, I mean, we have all kinds of stories, right? Like we have stories of guys from the NFL in the past hiding in a car at the stadium after he killed somebody, looking for, someplace to hide. He hid in the trunk of his car. Do you remember that?
No,
Ray
who's that?
Cruz. You don't forget Ray Cruz.
Oh no, I remember. Okay, I didn't know he was hiding in the
I
trunk of
think
his
he was
car in the
hiding in
parking
the
lot
trunk of his
of the
car at the
stadium.
stadium or something. It's like there's all kinds of like weird stories that come out, but it never sinks them. Never sinks the league, never sinks the game. Fantasy football, gambling. Look at the USFL this year. Nobody went to the games, but the ratings weren't too bad because people were gambling on the games. They all
I watched a couple games when they were
look.
on. Like
The
it's football.
teams had cities on them, but all the games were played in Birmingham, Alabama, and nobody went to the games. It's
No.
like, what's the point of maybe moving these teams to the cities they're named after? Potentially, if no one goes to these games, right? Added
Yeah,
costs.
yeah, they probably would lost money.
It'll cost more money to do it. Like I would argue next year
Yeah,
they should do it again. Just run it back in Birmingham and call it a day. And make money off TV stuff and this and that, this and that.
oh, now they got the XFL coming back too, right? So there's just more competition.
More competition, but what's really cool about that is guys getting a chance to play. I
Oh yeah,
I just watched a pretty horrible movie on the plane. I just came back from spending time in the Pacific Northwest up in Canada and Washington State. One of the movies I watched going over, it's a terrible movie, but it's a good example if there is an option to play. Sometimes you can find it. I watched the freaking Kurt Warner movie. Oh my God.
you did.
I watched it.
You did.
You know
Was
what?
it good?
I mean,
I've been curious.
look,
I've
you
been
know
really
the
curious.
story. He was up and down in college, this and that, this and that. He worked at a grocery store for a little while.
Yeah,
After getting cut in the NFL after just a couple of days, this and that, this and that, and he comes back and becomes MVP of the league, wins Super Bowl MVP, wins the Super Bowl, goes to 3 Super Bowls total. Like, hey, it's a great story. But the movie, I mean, granted, the whole story is gonna play out. It was all right.
yeah. I mean, you know what?
He didn't make
It
a whole
is.
bunch of money in the box office for a reason.
It is. I mean, it is a great story. But yeah, you talk about a guy who's in the right place at the right time, man.
But willing to go play in the Arena Football League before Arena Football was how it is now, which is a lot more, how should you say, accepted, and people watch it,
Yeah,
people love it.
I used to go to arena football games when they had the Los Angeles Avengers.
Something like that was the Avengers, yeah.
Yeah,
They're not
I
there
saw a
anymore,
couple
right?
games.
They're not there anymore.
I don't think so. I mean, at least I haven't gone to a game in like probably almost 20 years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, football's back soon, and all the stories are coming out. A lot of guys changing uniforms and this and that, and fantasy football leagues are doing their draft within the next month. You know,
Yeah, it looks like I should have gone to more games because they folded in 2009.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
God.
yeah. Pretty good of you not to notice for the last 13 years they didn't exist.
I mean, I knew they were not here. I just didn't know from when.
Yeah. So, in any case, Royce, anything fun coming up for you?
Not off the top of my head, but man, dude, you been watching WNBA at all? Or following WNBA?
Yeah, no.
That's too bad, dude. Man,
I
Kelsey
mean,
Plum is lighting it up, dude.
like, look, not to be mean or anything. Well, actually, I haven't been watching any sports, a whole bunch of sports to begin with at all. Like, because I've been traveling and these type of things too. So,
Yeah.
but like my favorite baseball team is in first place, and I've not watched one game they play full all the way through from the beginning to the end yet.
Oh no, I have not watched.
So
I think I've not watched any baseball games this year. I haven't been to a baseball game this year either,
right.
which is, like
which is
first.
weird because you try to get to quite a bit of Dodgers games most times.
Yeah, usually I get to a couple of Dodger games a year, but I haven't gone, and I'm not really planning on going. I mean, and the Dodgers are doing okay, I think, right? Like, this is just not.
Oh, they're doing great. No, they're doing great.
Yeah.
They're ahead in their division, and I believe they have the second best record in all of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So they're doing pretty great. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
The best team money you can buy,
I mean, their hitting is not that great, but at least for the majority of the team, except for maybe like a couple people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, it's not too much that's not saying anything about women in sports when I say I haven't watched the WNBA. I really just haven't watched sports because I think a lot of times I tune out sports in late June to early August, kind of the dog days of sports. This is the time where it's just I don't want to read too much media stuff because it's like they're all reaching to write stories because there's just nothing to write about. Unfortunately, the only other thing to write about with the WNBA right now is, of course, Will Super's, last season, but Brittany Griner's case in Russia. Those are the things that kind of most, right?
Yeah.
But, so that's probably the only thing that comes up. So.
Oh no, the other thing, dude, is Kelsey Plum, dude. She's lighting it up.
Okay, right. See Kelsey Plum to 50 people.
She's from UW, man.
I know, but how many people are
Pac-10 leading scorer? She went to the Vegas Aces. Okay, well, the only reason why I know is because she went to the Vegas Aces, and I saw a game when I was out there.
You know what's really cool, though? That you're this excited about the WNBA, man. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Dude, someone's not. Like, it's basketball. It's on.
It is. I mean, I watched.
You can gamble on it you can gamble on it if you want to.
And I mean, I watched a little bit of Summer League too because I just want to see Chet Holmgren like stand up next to other guys and just continue to see how skinny that dude is.
Yeah, it's fun, dude. If you like basketball, if you're a fan of basketball, I'm a fan of basketball.
Right.
I'll watch any basketball.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm actually sitting down watching a game, I'll watch any game. It doesn't matter to me, honestly. I'll watch a high school game. Like, I don't care. It's just whether I'm actually sitting still, and I think it's been great traveling, and being out there, being all over the place. I spent so much time up in Vancouver, Richmond, and I actually got to spend some time on Galiano Island, which was really cool. Had a wedding to go to there.
That is, man.
Yeah, I mean it's I mean that's what's cool about it. You get there and there's basically one road almost on that island, and it's just a bunch of trails and overlooking the water. But going back to like Richmond and Vancouver, like the Chinese food there, especially down in Richmond, is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
With the exodus of people from Hong Kong that have gone to live down there. I had dim sum every day.
A lot of people from Asia move to Canada because it's easier to immigrate there. Yep.
So it's pretty cool. I like it. I'm probably going to spend more time up in that area. I think when I travel now, and just because the vibe is just different. It's just more mellow. Like people are less crazy.
What are you trying to say about LA, dude?
People are a lot less crazy on the other side of the border. Is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
And on that note.
On that note, any parting thoughts here? Any last comments here, Royce, as we kind of wrap up today's show?
My last thoughts is catch us on Spotify, catch us on I forget all the other ones I applied to.
iHeartRadio and
iHeartRadio, yeah, like
and then Samsung, and then there's a Samsung podcast thing. I don't know.
There's a Samsung podcast thing apparently.
Yeah,
I signed up for it, so
So maybe we'll blow
catch us on there too as well.
Maybe we'll blow up in Korea. Thank you to all our listeners who kind of have been combing through our episodes in the last few weeks. You definitely haven't been missed as far as like we notice you. We got people listening from all kinds of countries now, man. We're totally international, dude. It's pretty cool.
I know, that's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we entertain you and you're actually listening to this one again, or we didn't scare you away. But thanks for listening.
Or, if you use us to go to sleep, that's good too.
That's cool too, because if my voice is the last voice in your ear when you go to sleep, like, there are worse things in life. For me,
that sounds scary.
anyway.
Actually, I
Yeah,
think that's scary.
yeah, it's kind of weird. Kind of weird thing. I didn't really know how to wrap that one up, and I just kind of just kept talking. So anyway, we look forward to recording again soon. A lot of things are happening in the world, and would be really interested to see how it all plays out because we all live in this world, and it'd be good to be as informed as possible.
Definitely. See you soon.
See you guys.